Hi, my name is Kristin. This is Kristin Kraves book. It has been a couple weeks since I filmed a recent reads video, and I have read quite a few books since then. I think at least 10, but a few of those are sequels, and that is all part of my summer sequels. If you don't know, I am committed to reading sequels this summer, and I have filmed a video of all the series I want to focus on, so I will link that down below if you're interested in that. But I'm going to do a wrap up at the end of the summer and let you know how I did, but so far so good. So I'm just going to focus on the other books in this video. And I just finished a book 5 minutes ago, and I'm still obviously processing my feelings, but it's one that I'm so unsure about that I thought it would be more interesting to come on here, talk to you all about it. And then if you have read this, it's a very popular book. I think it has 800,000 reviews on Goodreads, so there's a good chance you have read it. And if you have, I'd love to discuss it with you or just get your thoughts on it in general. And that is American Gods by Neil Gaiman. This is the book that has been on my TBR the longest. I talk about this all the time. I bought this 10th anniversary edition the year that it came out, and I think that this book was originally published in 2001, so I bought this in 2011, and obviously we are in 2022, so it's been 11 years and I haven't touched it. It's all yellowed on the top, and it's just one of those books that I've hyped up in my mind, and then I avoided it for so long that I was so intimidated by it, but I was determined to finally get to it this year, and I have, because of that first sentence challenge that I did for myself, creating my first a TBR based on first lines alone. And I really liked the opening of this, but I'm very mixed on it. I'm thinking of giving it a 2-star on Goodreads, but I'm unsure. I'm gonna have to sit with that for a minute. I think the premise of this was interesting. There are some interesting themes that really could have been done well. Themes of old gods versus new gods, and modern gods in this world are technology, the internet, social media, things like that. And I thought the dichotomy between those things could have been explored in an interesting way, and they were at points, but first of all, this was entirely too long, so I thought a lot of it dragged out. I thought it could have the potential to be fun and engaging, but instead it was slow and pretentious and actually a little bit shallow in some ways. I never felt connected to Shadow, our main character, so I didn't quite care what happened to him or how it all played out in the end. And this is a long book, and it drags on, and then I didn't think that the ending was really worth it. It wasn't as much payoff as I was expecting. There were some interesting twists. I did like some of the reveals near the end, but the overall action and then how everything wraps up just felt convenient and kind of cheap to me. I will say I love Neil Gaiman's writing. I have read The Ocean at the End of the Lane, love that. I know that's people have mixed thoughts on that one, but that was my introduction to his work, and I really like that. Absolutely adore Norse mythology. I listen to Norse mythology on audio, and it's my favorite book of his so far, and I highly recommend that one. It did feel different from this, even though they are both about gods. But this 10th anniversary edition, Gaiman wrote like an intro, and he did say that he knew that this was going to be a divisive book when he wrote it. He just wanted to write something that he felt like writing and didn't care about reviews. So I think that's great, and I know a lot of people have loved this, so this might just be a me thing. And I want to say, like, I don't mind like gratuitous writing or vulgar scenes, or understand when they need to have those included. I don't mind scenes like that at all. But in this, it just felt like it was for shock value, and there are things I want to say about it, but actually I know my grandfather watches my videos sometimes, so I won't go there. But if you know, you know on that one. So yeah, I'm gonna have to sit with this. I'm trying to think of things that I actually liked about it, and it's harder. Like, some of the writings are actually some beautiful quotes in here, and in some ways it's a letter to books. There are some great lines about bookstores and books and stuff, but not for me. Not my last Neil Gaiman, I don't think. I will try something else by Neil Gaiman. If you have a favorite Gaiman, let me know. I know, is it Neverwhere that people really love? So I'm open to that, but this was a miss, which is so sad because I've had it for so long, but I don't think I'm going to be keeping it on my shelves. So I'm happy to have read it because now I know. I have 2 more books that I've read physically, and one was an ARC, and this says on here that it comes out June 28th, but I looked it up and it actually comes out July 12th. So I will post this all over my social media and probably talk about it in a future video closer to the release date, because I really want this to get the attention that it deserves. And this is The Romance Recipe by Ruby Barrett, and apparently this is the second in a series. The first one is called Hot Copy, and we're following Sophie's brother, who is a character in here, and I did like him. It's his romance with his boss, but you definitely don't need to read that. I don't think I will go back and read that one, but this was fantastic. It is obviously a sapphic love story, and you know I love a good foodie romance, so that's what we get here. It follows Amy, who owns a restaurant, so here she is, and this is such a good cover, and she has so much attraction towards her head chef, Sophie. But as far as she knows, Sophie is engaged to a man, and so she keeps it to herself, but there's so much mutual pining. Sophie's actually just ended her engagement and she's exploring her bisexuality, so we get a lot of that representation as well. And then there is a food competition in here, but it doesn't really play out until the last act, and it's more in the background, which I did appreciate that part, but what was really stood out to me were the highs and lows of running a restaurant. And then we also get some interesting family dynamics in here as well. Or actually, I think the brother, I said that the brother is Sophie's brother, but I actually think it's Amy's brother. So sorry about that. It is Amy's brother because they have a complicated relationship with their father. And I like the writing in here. This is from Karina Press, and they do these LGBT romances, and you look for this symbol, the doors symbol on here. I've read another book published by them this month and also adored it. I will talk about that soon. So I'm gonna look out for their books because I thought this was special. It's super steamy, lots of mutual pining. As I said, they get together pretty quickly, but of course they have issues that come up, especially since they work together. And yeah, I love this. If you are interested in the restaurant business at all, I think you will like this as well. So what does it say on here? It's Sexy, Smart, and Fiercely Feminist by Helen Huang, who you know I adore. So, and I agree with her. I apologize if the camera angle or lighting has changed. My memory card was full, so I will move on to the last physical book that I read recently, and that is Elektra by Jennifer Saint. I've showed this book off many times because the cover is just stunning, and thankfully I thought that the story itself lived up to it. It's no secret that I love Greek myth retellings, and this is one of the better ones that I've ever read. I don't think I've ever read one so quickly, and I think that's a testament to Jennifer Saint's writing. It is very accessible. I don't think you need a ton of knowledge of the Trojan War to appreciate this, but I do think that it helped me having read books like Silence of the Girls or 1,000 Ships by Natalie Haynes. So I've read a lot of these Trojan War retellings from the perspectives of women, and for some reason, and I never get tired of it. And I know a lot of people have, but I am still into it. I do take breaks, but anyways, this is one of the better ones. So I now want to read Jennifer Saint's debut, Ariadne, and I know nothing about that character, so I'm interested in that, and I knew nothing about Elektra going into this. And I thought we were only going to get Elektra's perspective, and she is Agamemnon's, I always say that wrong, his daughter. And Elektra looks up to her father, sees him as someone special, which is an interesting perspective because I feel like nobody else sees him that way, and I certainly don't, and I don't think any readers do. But to see Elektra worship him is an interesting perspective. She can be frustrating to read about, but it is her father, so you can understand her in some ways. And then we also follow Elektra's mother, and I always think she's fascinating, and her plots against her husband and all of that stuff, and she deals with her grief. So if you know her story, you know what to expect in that perspective. And then we do follow somebody who is a Trojan, and it's my favorite character to follow, and that is Cassandra, who has been cursed by Apollo to be able to see the future, but nobody believes her. And I always love getting her perspective. I think we get her perspective quite a lot in these retellings, and I can see why, because she's so fascinating and she's so important to the story and how everything plays out. And I was really just appreciated getting her perspective as well. So those are the three women we follow. Really fast-paced, great writing. If you are into these, if you liked like the Silence of the Girls, as I said, or anything by Natalie Haynes, I think you should try this. So I'm happy with it. And I've heard a lot of people say that this is better than Ariadne, but I do remember watching Best Books of the Year videos last year, and a lot of people had Ariadne as one of their favorites. So if you read that, let me know what you thought of it. But this lives up to this cover. It's so gorgeous. This is the UK edition, by the way, but not much to say other than that. It is just your typical feminist Greek myth retelling, and it worked for me. I listened to 3 ALCs recently, thanks to NetGalley, and I enjoyed them all. So the first one is a YA contemporary romance, and that is Home Field Advantage by Dahlia Adler. And this is my first standalone Dahlia Adler novel. I have read a few of her anthologies. I know that she's famous for putting together anthologies and editing them, and I've read some good ones by her. What's the one? There's that one with Edgar Allan Poe that I really liked, but anyways, that's off topic. I never thought I would read one of her standalone novels because I'm very particular about YA contemporary, but this one was sent to me, looked cute. I do love a good sports romance, so I decided to listen to it, and it reminds me of She Drives Me Crazy by Kelly Quinlan, I think is the author's name, and I loved that. So I will definitely be looking for more like YA fun sports romances, especially if they're sapphic, because apparently those work for me. And this one is a romance between a cheerleader and the new quarterback, Jack. And everybody's so excited for this new quarterback to come. They are grieving the loss of their old quarterback. He had passed away the year before. And then they realize that Jack is actually short for Jacqueline, and their new quarterback on this all-boys team is a girl, and she is immediately dismissed. She is ridiculed, bullied, not accepted at all, and by either the team or the cheerleaders, except for, let me see if I can remember her name. I have to look this up because she's a great character. What is her name? Amber, that's what I thought. So Amber is the head cheerleader, or she is a cheerleader looking to become the head cheerleader. So she doesn't want to make any waves, and she just wants to toe the line so that she can get that position, but she sees how poorly Jack is being treated and she is attracted to her. So they have kind of a secret romance. Nobody knows that Amber is into girls, and she's not ready to tell anybody. She's actually in a fake dating relationship with a football player, so she's not ready for the world to know that about her, and that obviously adds some complications to Jack's relationship, and she doesn't even want any of her teammates to know that she is friends with Jack in any way. So it's a hard book in that way. There are some heavier themes, but there's a lightness to it as well. It is a YA contemporary, so a romance, so there is a lot of sweetness to it. We get the standard scenes of going to a dance, the Friday Night Lights games, those kind of things. So I thought it was really well done and a quick listen. I really liked it on audiobook, so I think you could listen to that in a day and really enjoy yourself. I then listened to a book that really surprised me, and even though it was one of my most anticipated releases of the year, I don't think I realized just how much I was going to love this, because it is outside of my comfort zone, and that is This Vicious Grace by Emily Thied. And this is the first book in a series, and it is YA fantasy, but on the older side. Our main character is 18 and the love interest is 19. So it's a bodyguard romance. And again, I am terrible with names. I have to look up her name now. I know his name's Dante because he's a memorable character, but her name is Alessa. So Alessa is given this power where her touch kills. And I know that trope can be overdone, but I love the way that Emily Thied handled it, and the lore and politics and history behind all that makes so much sense, and it's just so well done. So she is able to harness the powers of others, and there's like a prophecy, and she's gonna save the world and all these things, but she's just too overpowering. So anytime she touches somebody that she's betrothed to or married to, they die. So she's been married 3 times and has to go to 3 funerals, and now people are turning against her. They don't trust her. They think she is cursed in some way, and it's a test for them. So there have been some assassination attempts against her, and she decides to enlist Dante as her bodyguard. And obviously they have great chemistry, great banter. It's quite hilarious in that way. And there's actually great found family in here. Like, if you like Ray Bear for that reason, I think you're gonna love This Vicious Grace, because she's trying to find her next husband or wife or partner, and she's in training with all these people who are potentially going to be married to her, and they're all pretty reluctant about it because obviously she's been killing people. And then they start to kind of go on her side and get to know her, and it's really sweet. So I loved that. There's great action in the end. It's one of those books that, yes, it's the first in a series, but it ends in a satisfying way. There's good setup for the next book, but it's not a cliffhanger, which I appreciate. Love the writing, loved it on an audiobook. When I wasn't listening to this, I wanted to be listening to it. It's rooted in like Italian history, which is interesting. The series is called The Last Finestra, so I thought that was unique for me. I haven't read many books like that But yeah, now I am into the bodyguard romance trope. So if you have any, I'd rather read some adult ones. So if you have any adult romance where it's the bodyguard trope that's not that Blood and Ash series, is that what it's called? I'd be interested in it. I know I have an ALC of The Bodyguard by Catherine Center that I'm going to read, and that's more contemporary, so we'll see what I think about that one. But I really, really loved This Vicious Grace. I am so surprised. It might be one of my top 10 books of the year, which I was not expecting at all. So I really hope that when that comes out, I think that is coming out this Tuesday when you're watching this video, that you give it a try, because it really, really surprised me. And then the last one is the other book I was talking about from that Karina publisher, and it is Devon and Kris Plan a Wedding. And I have to see who the author is because they deserve a shout out. The author is Chensia C. Higgins. So how cute is this cover? First of all, I love it with the rainbow cake, and I've been seeing book covers with this rainbow cake quite a bit recently, and I just love it. And if you like romances where they're centered around a reality show, I think you should pick this one up. And it's not like a show like The Bachelor at all. It's actually quite funny. The whole premise is that these two strangers are paired together and have to convince their families that they are engaged. And if they can make it to the aisle, they win $100,000. So they're obviously put into these strange situations where they go to terrible reception venues and go to cake testings with their families and try on dresses. But Devon and Kris are paired together, and they are so sweet together, so supportive. It's a great lesbian romance, so I highly recommend it. And Kris has such a great family. I think it's worth reading for her family alone. They're so supportive. Devon ends up going to a family, I think it's a wedding shower or a baby shower at the beginning, and meeting Kristin's entire family, and they just embrace her right away, and they buy this relationship so quickly because they have so much chemistry, and they are affectionate PDA very early on, right from the start. But then Devon has not come out to her family yet. So Kris helps her with that and navigates that whole situation and is so supportive. They have great conversations, great communications, but then of course you get the ups and downs and the conflicts that would come with the nature of the reality show, because Kris and Devon recognize that the show is trying to create drama, because otherwise it would be boring. But there's no third act conflict. I have to say that. That might be considered a spoiler, but I was so thrilled that there was no third act conflict because I was preparing for it, because it would be so easy to do in a book like this. You could set that up in a reality show so easily if they both got to the aisle and said no, or the families didn't buy into it or something. There were so many ways that this could have turned, but it was perfection. I loved it. I think this is getting some hype online, and we'd love to see that because I think it deserves it. So those are the books I've read recently. Of course, I said I read a few sequels I can't talk about yet. I'm in the middle of a sequel right now, Sense and Second Degree Murder, and I'm enjoying that one quite a bit. So my sequel reading, even though I've been doing it, they haven't been my favorite. So I'm hoping that this is the turnaround for me. And I would love to know what you are currently reading. What's the best book you read recently? And thanks again for all your support. I appreciate you all so much. I'll talk to you again soon. Bye for now.